Hi there, and welcome to the Mindful Marathon podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Michelle Quirk, a run coach and pediatrician. Mindful Marathon is all about helping runners of all types to run their own race. Whether you are a seasoned runner or you're just getting started, I want to let you know that you're welcome here and that you're in the right place. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. Today, I have a very special guest here today. I have with me Dr. Mary Leung, and she is going to help us today all about efficiency. So, Dr. Mary, welcome to the podcast and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Michelle, for having me. Yes, I am Mary Leung, and I am a certified physician, triple board certified internal medicine. But I really practice hematology and medical oncology, and I practice full time, seeing patients every week. I am also the founder and CEO of Shining with Gratitude MD, where I help physicians who are stressed, overwhelmed, and work especially charting at nights and on the weekends to leave work on time so that they get to enjoy life and enjoy practice medicine again. And of course, have more time to exercise.
Yes, yes. And, thank you for all you do as a physician and then also as a coach, helping all of us and all of my colleagues. We, if you are listening to the podcast and you're a physician, turn us up. If you are not a physician, still stick around because we're going to talk all about like time saving tips that everybody can use, not just physicians.
Exactly.
So, well, okay, maybe tell us, how did you even get into this? Like, how did you realize that you were wanting to help people with this problem?
Well, I would just say if you asked me maybe 5 years ago, no clue. I would just be like, you know what? I'll just continue my work as a clinical physician and just, go home past 7 o'clock at night and still have work to do at home and sometimes spill into the weekends. Well, at that time, it was really not living. I was just barely surviving. And I think what was really bothering me was I didn't have time for myself. I didn't have that mental capacity to enjoy anything. I wanted to spend more time with my family, but I didn't even have the energy to do that anymore. I wanted to really have that connection with patients and, develop that special human relationship, and I couldn't do it anymore. And so I was just so tired and exhausted and drained. And then fast forward to the pandemic, really, that's when, there was that kind of forced pause and really able to have the chance to examine my life. And then I was just seeing maybe a third to maybe at most two-thirds of the number of patients that I would be seeing normally. And then I was going home on time.
A
Wow.
miracle.
Miracle with everything done, not just on
Mhm.
time, but with everything done, 4:30, 5 o'clock. And I was wondering, what if I could do that, during a normal workday on a regular basis? I normally see about 20 some patients a day, of hematology and oncology patients. So then, at that time, because since I had time, I explored around and then came across something called life coaching. No clue what it was because I thought coaching was just for sports. And and then well, I was so desperate. I just wanted something to change. So I tried something new and joined a women physician coaching program. And there, part of it is what I worked with a physician coach. And I told her my biggest problem was really the work hours that I didn't sign up for. I was working very hard, but I just didn't seem to be able to, um, finish my charts, and I had to spend extra 3, 4 hours afterwards to finish everything, the charts, phone calls, lab reviews, and all those things. And then, so we worked together, and basically, which I'm going to share in a little bit. It's within about 3 months, and that was also when I was back to seeing the normal load of patients. I was able to go home by 5:30 with everything done. And now I'm actually, consistently going home by 5 o'clock with, after seeing 20 some patients.
Hmm.
So, of course, during the pandemic, I'll just say most doctors like to just get to the bottom of everything and learn about everything, to the depth of it, right? So I did too. And so I joined coaching certification program, for life coaching. And I didn't think that I would be a coach for others. It was just for my own knowledge and development, and I really enjoyed it. So then, since I was going home by 5:30 with everything done, I had time. I spent more time with my family, and then I was like kind of twirling my thumbs. I'm like, what else could I do? And then I thought, well, what if I could help other physicians do the same to help them, go home on time? Because so many physicians are burned out, are miserable, and and so many physicians are exiting clinical medicine or just cutting down to part-time. And I think by the time that I get old and need multiple specialists, doctors, I will have no doctors to see. So I thought, what if we can just help physicians be happier and have, more time, efficiency. And so then more people will enjoy doing what they do and stay in medicine longer. So that's how I started my company and started to coach other physicians.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I feel like, you were telling your story, and a lot of it resonates with me. And my way that I found my way into running and coaching is sort of like a similar story, and experiencing the burnout and just feeling like, I'm on a treadmill, but I can't step off, and I don't really see a way forward and a way out of this. But like, there has to be a better way, as you say.
Yes.
And so, well, I imagine too, you discovered that you had all of this extra time, and I know that that has opened up so many doors for you in terms of the coaching, but also in your own exercise journey and self-care and all of those things. And so, I know that I know this episode will help many people who I know in my own office who I will be sharing it with, and it will help me too. But can you give us, I mean, maybe let's talk first about things we can do in the office to help us with our efficiency, and then things we can do out of the office.
Yeah, sure. I would say, of course, everything is linked together because it's all about our life, right? And even our mind and our body, everything is connected. So I'll just say that to be efficient at work, it starts with before going to work. So, so that's the key. I know a lot of us ignore it or kind of like, oh, that's not so important, but I'll just say sleeping is very important.
Shout out to our friend, Dr. Funke Brown. We know you, we love you, and we are talking all about the importance of sleep. So yes, sleep is very important.
Yes, and because, with adequate sleep, you can, get up more refreshed and you can focus better. So that's, an important thing. And of course, I always say the three pillars of health is the sleep, exercise, meaning, for example, running, and also, having a healthy diet. So those are very important things. So when you get up in the morning, that's also a very important thing is, just notice or pay attention to what is your first thought in the morning. I think that a lot of people, including myself, if you're not mindful of it, will be like, oh, it's another long day of work, especially if you're working the extra hours, no matter what field you're in. And so just notice how that is, I would just say changing you in terms of or how you feel about it. Because, if you think then that, oh, it's another long day, you may be, you may be feeling the dread. You may be kind of annoyed, frustrated, and all those unpleasant emotions. So you don't have to take that first thought and go with it the whole day. You can choose something else to think about to focus on, and you can say that, okay, today is going to be a manageable day. I always share, with other people that my sentence, which you can borrow, anyone can, it's today is going to be a great day no matter what happens. So it's like I take into account of all the surprises that, that may come up, and I'm just going to deal with it because I can't control those situations. They just come up, especially, in medicine. People can fall sick, sicker than you expect them to be, or, they have reaction or whatever it is. So, when things like that come, I just deal with it. So I don't argue with it. And then so, you go to the office, it's like, what do you do to be more efficient? Is that definitely, you want to have that belief that you can do it, that you can focus and be efficient. And if in the beginning, if you're working the extra 4 or 5 hours after your scheduled hours, going home on time, like just shedding like 4 hours may be kind of unrealistic, and you may be kind of just pushing it back, and that's okay. So maybe think of like, oh, maybe I can go home like half an hour earlier today. So just think of it as little increments, and we always say Rome is not built in one day, right? So you just take little small habits, and just like running, you don't go from 0 miles to 26.2 miles, right? It's like, just as I share with Dr. Michelle earlier, that what, I'm not a runner. I used to swim, but not very fast, but I used to swim, and running is just not my thing. But then I'm like, you know what? I want to run because I just want to be healthier. That's part of my cardio exercise. So I just started, I do some stationary run at home, and then every Saturday when I, take my kids to go swimming, there's a park there, so I just run there. So I go, I went from 0 miles, and now I'm up to 1.5 nonstop. I mean, that's a big win for me, really.
Yes, it
Um,
is. Congrats.
so my point is like, you just do a little bit, like by little bit, but you have to believe that you can do it. Otherwise, subconsciously, you're not going to do it. So then, of course, it's very important to focus on one thing at a time. We like to use the term multitask
Yeah, a lot.
a lot, and that does not work. Because our brain is not designed to think about or focus on, more than one thing at a time. And so if you try to do two or three things at the same time, is you're actually just task switching from one to another, and your brain takes that much longer just to settle down to the other thing. So you end
Hmm.
up taking more time to do those two, three things than if you separate them, one at a time. So I think that's the biggest thing that I have learned, really,
Hmm.
during this journey. And of course, I'll just say, no matter what you do, is there are a lot of distractions. Um, of course, there can be strategies that you can come up with to minimize distractions. Like, of course, in medicine, in the outpatient setting, it's like, you can have patient phone calls. The nurses can grab you for something, or a doctor's phone call. So, maybe you can make some protocols to say that, hey, do not disturb me if my door is closed, or only call me if there's an emergency, something like that. That will already minimize your phone calls during, like say, if you're busy, or in a room seeing a patient, or doing whatever you do in your specialty. Um, so then the other thing is whatever distractions is like from not related to work, say your phone, like personal phone or emails. So you want to turn off those, notifications, and
Hmm.
because every time you hear a ding or whatever, then your mind will be curious and think about, oh, what is that about? Even if you decide not to look at it, your mind is already gone. So you have to wheel back to say, hey, I'm focusing on work right now. So imagine if you do that 20 times a day. That's
Yeah.
probably like 20 minutes of your time. So, or more even. And then of course your mind can also wander off without any notification. So that's why it's always important to be mindful of what you're thinking. Just be, I would just say like a guardian or an observer of yourself to say, if you notice that your mind is slowly creeping away, bring it back to say that, hey, you know what? We're here. We want to finish our work on time. And just keep that, also keep that goal in mind. It's like, what do you want to accomplish today? For me,
Yeah.
it's really take good care of the patients and leave work on time.
Mhm.
You don't compromise your quality of work by being fast,
Yeah.
so that's kind of like, the framework. It's, you remind yourself throughout the day, what is your goal for today, and what do you need to do to accomplish that?
I want to go back to a couple of things I will highlight
Yeah.
that really resonated with me. And I think to your point about how the efficiency starts before you get in the office. I mean, for
Mhm.
me, I'm an early morning exerciser, so running, swimming, whatever it is, it has to be done in the earlier part of the day. It's just as the day wears on, it just doesn't work for me. Like I can't leave it until later, it won't happen. So
Hmm.
even on my days off and out of the office, like if it's not happening before noon, it's not happening. So I know that about myself, and you know what works best for you, but I think it puts you in the right headspace to be doing those self-care things in the morning. And then the other thing you were saying about the distractions, minimizing distractions.
Yes.
I have used, okay, so yeah, notifications on the phone, I put the thing on focus or whatever, do not disturb.
Right.
That has been so helpful, even with not just with charting, but with writing training plans for my
Mhm.
athletes. When I'm like wanting to be in the zone to write training plans, I turn off all of the notifications and all of that for my runners, like turn off the notifications. Like they can come through on your running watch, like Garmin and your Apple Watch and all of that. Like you can turn
Mhm.
those off. Like that is actually an option. And if, I have people who are like, but what about, family emergencies? Okay, you can have, a couple of people who you see their notifications no matter what. But really, we don't need to be, I don't know, it's hard for physicians because we're used to being on call, So you're used to just responding to notifications immediately. And it doesn't have to be that way.
And the other thing to be more efficient is that, I think it's always good to celebrate. And by celebrate, I just mean that is, something that you're appreciating, you're acknowledging yourself. Like say, for me, it will be like, hey, I am on time after seeing 4 patients and I finished their notes. Yippee, hooray, and or just give myself a high five. And you don't have to have, flowers, confettis, or anything, or let other people know that, you just let yourself know that, hey, you know what, I just want that little dopamine hit of
Yeah.
happiness. And that's another, really uh, kind of like fueling way to give yourself more energy mentally
Hmm.
to go on, because as we go on later in the day, it's like you're getting more and more tired. You're making a lot of decisions,
Yeah.
and then even though physically you can handle it, it's like your brain needs a break, so which means that actually uh another important thing is to take little breaks. And I think that's another thing that a lot of us busy, hardworking people are trying to skip, because we think that, well, you know what, I'm just going to skip lunch because I have so much work to do. And but think about it, if you don't have that break, your brain gets slower and it takes you longer to concentrate. I noticed that definitely in the past, that in the second half of the day, everything seemed to be slower. And
Hmm.
I was writing my notes slower. I was making decisions slower, is because, I was working straight through. So then, I decided to, you know what, I'm just going to take a lunch break. Sometimes I may just, even like kind of, I feel kind of tired. I may just stand up, stretch a couple minutes, and, even that tiny little break of you just walking away, that really helps. So I think then you're thinking like, I really don't have time to do this. Um, I think that it is important to kind of reframe that and say that, you know what, I'm going to manage. I'll have enough time to do what I need to do. And Dr. Michelle and I, we actually talked offline earlier and say that, you know, if you don't put something on your schedule, you probably will not really do it. So say, when you can actually do an hourly planner, scheduling. I think like for me, for example, it's pretty straightforward from 8 to 4 because that's when I see patients. But then you also want to put in the lunchtime or a little break time. Or for me, it's like even a little downtime to check the messages that I have from the office, something like that. And then afterwards, it's like what do you want to schedule? Um, and you if you want to, be healthy and exercise, you schedule your exercise time, your running time,
Mhm.
or yoga class, or time with family. I think that, everything deserves to be scheduled. And yes, there could be so many things, and it's probably not possible to do everything in the 24 hours that you want to do with, including with the sleep and all those things. At the same time, it's like, maybe some days you do this, some days you do that. So I think just having that organized schedule will also help you to be more efficient, because then you're like, all right, today is Monday. I'm This is what I'm going to do. And that you don't have to think about, oh, what should I do next? Because that takes time too. So,
Yep.
so I think it's just all these kind of little things. I would just say they're not really life-changing on their own, but sometimes they can be. But it's like all these things add together. Really, that's how I saved, the 3+ hours every day and going home by 5.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you just gave us an entire masterclass. So, in terms of scheduling, everybody knows, we have talked about this on the podcast before, but it doesn't matter what kind of exercise or running or whatever self-care it is, like that goes in the calendar the same way your work schedule, picking up the kids, attending the soccer game, like all of that
Mhm.
goes in the schedule. And there's a balance between feeling like it's so regimented, but also that it's a priority. So I love that things get on the calendar. This is all great. Oh my goodness. I think that, minimizing distractions, planning ahead, kind of doing, preparing before you get in the office and putting your important self-care items, in the morning. I think
Mhm.
those are all really important. And also just, yeah, I feel like even distractions during the day too. That's a huge one.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh, tell us where everybody can find you.
Yes, so my website is www.shiningwithgratitudemd.com, and the email is shiningwithgratitudemd@gmail.com. I'm also on LinkedIn, Mary Leung MD, and I recently started on Instagram at
Woo!
Dr. Mary Leung. So it's just DrMaryLeung.
Nice. Nice. And I will leave the links in the show notes so that everybody can find you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for sharing your wisdom. Thank you for joining us. I know that the runners and the docs and all of the busy professionals will appreciate this episode, so thank you.
Thank you so much.
And before we wrap up, I want to share something exciting coming up next month. On December 11th, I'll be hosting a special live workshop called Running Resolutions, Turning Dreams into Distance. This is going to be a chance to pause, reflect on 2025, and set your running and life goals for 2026 with intention and clarity and a little bit of our mindful marathon magic. So, I will share more details soon, but for now, simply save the date Thursday, December 11th, and stay tuned for the registration, which will be opening up shortly. Thanks again for joining me on this week's episode of the podcast, and I will see you soon. Thank you for listening today. If you enjoyed the episode, please share it with a friend. And if you have a moment, please rate and review the podcast so that we can reach and encourage others to tie on their sneakers and join us out there on a run. See you next time.